Now let's take a look at conversational. And what we want to do under conversational is we want to work on the DXF. However, I need to add that file in. So I can do that from here, or if I'm under files, if I just actually created a file folder that just has my DXF files. So if I click that open, I'm just going to take this first one here because it's 13 kilobytes. The smaller, the faster to load. This one right here at 136 takes a long time. This one at 400 kilobytes, even longer. So think about what your file size will be in terms of speed loading that up. And that's just going to be one of those things. Sometimes it's also going to give you errors about units. We're going to work around that for right now. So I'm going to come into conversational. I'm going to click in order to load that. And this is where we're at. This is our actual G54. And so we're going to have to go through and figure out where that placement's going to be. I've already cheated. I've already positioned where I want my center part to be. And so we're just going to work on this. So I have a Y at 30 point. So if I go to my Y offset, I'm going to change that back to 30. And I don't want to go that far over, so I'm only going to go 29.5. So let's make that modification here real quick. Now I can see that from edge to edge, I'm at 35.5 millimeters and I'm 43 millimeters tall from the top down. That'll be fine. Actually, I want that smaller, and so we're going to modify that. We'll show that in just a second. But here's another cool thing that you can do. Let's say all I want is the actual graphic and I don't want the letters because I've already engraved that in my previous. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on these boxes. And that'll show me what it is related to in terms of the engraving. So I'm going to click all of these off for Tormach, the word, and I'm going to leave just the graphic. I have to scroll down just a little bit more here. Get number 10 off. Oh, I want 10 back on. So that should have been 9. Fantastic. So now, so I look at this, I'm only going to be working with that. So I have to calculate in this distance here. That's going to be a little bit different. So it's a little tricky and you want to cut air first in order to see where you're at. Now, if I need to make this smaller, I'm going to go ahead to the scale. And let's say I need this at 0.7. So we're at 70% of what the original file is. And you can just keep going through, double checking, how is this going to relate to my actual work. Usually, in terms of the path, it will go to the center. But let's go ahead and cut air first in order to make sure that we're doing this right. I've got a Z0 in terms of my start, depth of cut, 0.1 millimeters or 0.01 millimeters. And we're just going to have that as my end cut as well. So again, we're just going to cut air. I've got this with my tool 31. Again, I just kind of keep track of my tabs, my tools, and then I'll mark on them what it is so I can quickly reference that. I'm going to change this to about 17,000 RPM because I don't necessarily, I think I'll run probably 2 passes. I'll just run it one after the other. I'm going to run this just a little bit slower. I'm going to take this to 750. Whoops, not 7,500. 750 millimeters per minute. The C will be fine, and our clearance of 10 will be just fine as well. We're just going to call this a DXF Tormach logo. I've got everything set up for what I need. I'm going to go ahead and post this. So let's cut some air and double check that this is what we want. All right, I have made some modifications. So you'll notice after my air cut, I've changed this all the way down to now 14 millimeters across. However, in order to make some adjustments, here's what I did. I actually took my end mill and placed it right here in the center. Let me show you. So if I just take my mouse and jog shuttle, you'll see how it's starting to show right where I'm at. And I can go ahead And that is technically, if you will, the center of that box. Now, I will come over to my machine and see if that's about where I want it in terms of center above my engraving from the last work that we did. And if so, then I'm going to air cut again and then set it up to actually engrave into the piece of wood. So this is one of those tricks where you could actually come up, you could trace this whole thing so that you understand where your box is going to be put on the material, and then come back, find that center, then make your adjustments. Okay, so what were the adjustments? Let's just go back in. I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Conversational Edit, come back down here to this one. I'm going to do that edit, and you'll notice here I made some adjustments here, almost 9 millimeters. I took 9 millimeters off of X offset. The same thing with the Y. I took off about 3 or 4 millimeters in order to do that. If I click over here, it'll probably show up again. I just need to zoom in, zoom out, but it'll show up. Those were the changes I made. I come over and click on my finish. It wants to know if I need to save anything. I didn't change anything, so I don't need to. So I'll close it, and now we're ready to run it. So I will go ahead and click load. And this is where we are sitting. So let's go ahead and run this. Now I'm just going to leave it at this angle because it creates a little bit of a shadow, and you can see how that laid out. There's a bit of fuzz, and I find that a lot of times on wood, I run it a second time. That way it just kind of cleans up anything that might be there. But I could also run it just a smidge lower as well in order to clean that up. But that is how you run a DXF file and position it on your material, and some of the tricks and tips in order to be able to figure out exactly where that's going to lay out. That's one of the things that I wanted to be able to show you, especially with logos. Again, try and keep those file sizes a little bit smaller, and it'll be easier to load.